what do we want to teach? What do we want to the learners to learn about the noosphere, not really about, but for the noosphere? What kind of, education is needed for the noosphere to advance, for people to become a part of it, like deeper and stronger with more sense of meaning. So it's really, almost the other side of the conversation, about education being a means of dissemination of ideas, which is like kind of like a flip side of the coin, of course, and understanding education as a long-term, like slow, day-by-day formative process of a mind, yes, which we do in our societies, and it's spanning for years, yes. So like this meaning of the word education is something very, very close to me, and for that you need a long-term, plan and long horizon and understanding. All those things also that in the project are we are planning for, stages to come. Yes. So because without a kind of an eye on a horizon, it's difficult to plan, long-term processes. I have been also, kind of approaching the same, theme of Spaceship Earth from the dissemination point of view, and this, short video distribution, public communication, and so on. And just experimentally, I'm busy, producing cartoons for children that walk children into this sphere of understanding. So the first one came in actually tonight. Yes, so it's not really tested. Just a few people saw it, and so if you will, if there will be time and you will want, I can show it in the end. But it's on the margin of what I want to talk today. And I've been already introduced by Francis yesterday in the context of my engagement in the research component in the project. And for me, actually, the research component and my understanding of what we should be doing in education, or thinking and planning for the future is very, very closely coming together. And when I was working at CLEA at the VUB, already for years we've been busy with the concept of the global brain. And my part was always from the human, social, semiotic, meaning perspective. So I was always interested in how is this network, global as it might be, experienced by, kind of reflected in the mind of individuals in our meaning structures, in our relating to the world. And so and then it's been already a while that we started this research. We've been reading Teilhard and other texts, and then I was working also on the angle of education for that, which is it must be focused on the individual. What do we want from this? What do we want this individual to be like, and what do we want this individual to learn? And then we got engaged in the Human Energy Project, and reread Teilhard, and I read more of Teilhard's text than earlier. And actually, all I was doing educationally and kind of theoretically and from the research side actually landed quite obsessively in just two words in Teilhard's text, which is something Terry was also kind of bookmarking yesterday, this circumflection of consciousness, which is happening, as a generative mechanism. For me, in my understanding, this is the generative mechanism of the noosphere. How, the most conscious components of the noosphere are able to absorb into their, minds, their consciousness, more and more of everything, yes, and of other humans, of ideas, of knowledge, and so on. So it's like a it's a very interesting geometry if you imagine it geometrically, because it's not just a sphere of dots that are like more and more interconnected. And this is where visualizations become tricky, yes? Because in those visualizations, the dots remain as they were. And they are kind of like, they are just being connected like as if, like by cables, yes? And they're just dots. Whereas if you take this reflective coiling aspect of the noosphere, or circumflection, which I love both words, and I'm kind of trying to translate it for cognitive science. I'm calling it cognitive interiorization, and trying to develop a theory of that. What this dot is doing, by learning anything, having a conversation, reading a book, having understanding somebody, this dot is changing, and it's like the mind is including a part of another mind. And it's been, I was tracing, it's been coming back, and once and again yesterday also in a few talks. So, how do you represent this geometrically? Yes, this kind of like each dot becoming like a whole sphere in itself. And in that sense, I understand, for me, the image of this omega point would be actually not just one sphere. It would be like, I cannot draw it. That's what it would be. But if the consciousness is converged in, every mind contains all minds, yes, and the other way around. So of course it's like a speculative horizon, but it doesn't annihilate individuality and difference, because each is reflecting everything differently, yes, and this is why we are so many, yes, and not just one. For this growth of intelligence and this presence of so many different perspectives and sensibilities and ways of sensing and being. So this is what I'm interested in. And I want to I want to operationalize this for an educational trajectory. Okay, how do we understand education if this is the kind of long-term trajectory for individual cognition, individual intelligence and consciousness becoming more and more entangled with one another. So if you approach in educational design logic, a question like that, you usually have learning objectives, what is needed? Yes, what is needed on the level of one individual for this convergence to be happening? It's not only of course we are very kind of self-reflective creatures, yes? And if we have a notion for what we are doing, it becomes reinforced. So a word, a concept, a set of concepts, it's immensely useful tool, yes? But it's not enough, obviously, because if you are not in this process, having words, we have very broad vocabulary for things that we are not doing, yes? So, obviously, yes? And we are and those are all the people out there doing different things, including social groups that we are not a part of, yes? So Scientologists is my example, the word. We don't want to popularize a word like noosphere in this way, yes? So that everybody will know it. And it can be kind of counterproductive to what we want, yes? If they know it in this kind of sealed away, manner. So what do we want on the individual, level is, in the educational paradigm is a question of, how do we develop the, almost behavioral and cognitive descriptors of the learner's profile in the end of the process? And then another question is, if we know what we want, how do we get there? Yes, and how do we get there, kind of in a self-organized way, is one thing. Yes, so we kind of propagate ideas, people get those ideas, artists get inspired, storytellers get inspired, and so on. So this is how ideas propagate in the society. A systematic approach of getting people to be in a certain way is called education. So the systematicity of this process is where we are like entering the domain of education, which, you know, like takes quite a long while in every individual lifespan. Yes. And this is the window of time where you like become formed for something. And actually, if we are addressing the question of the chasm, how do you reach above, beyond the group of early adopters? Yes, this formative process is being called upon. Yes, because early adopters, you know, like they are already ready. Yes, they are just, okay, give me a you know, a notion and connecting my ideas I already had, and I'll figure it out by myself. Yes, but if not, if it has to land on like how we you know, it has to reform a person in a bit. Yes. So education feels like a natural, you know, natural part of the human system where those ideas need to be kind of woven into the entire pedagogical concept, what we are teaching people for. Yeah, so like let's call the first one like, okay, we are kind of like trying to form a noospheric frame of mind. And the systematic achievement of that, you know, like that would be the educational process that we are after. And you see, it's important to understand the function of education in this kind of like systemic way in society, because what it tends to be is like there is it's kind of like a cynical, maybe a bit even a view that, like, you know, that those many years of educational process in the society are kind of used as like a window for particular types of social systems to produce the members of those systems. Yes. So when we had, like, you know, the first like massively organized organizations of education, it was like religious formation, yeah, and then this system defines what it needs individuals to know, to be like, you know, to want, to believe in, and you are taking all those, you know, like years from preschool to like to the end of college. To like instill those things, and you are instilling those things not only by talking about them. Yes, you occasionally need to talk because this is how our minds work, and we need to cohere with terms. But you experience. Yes, you are. It's like education happens on so many levels, including the way people are seated in a room. Yes, you are learning something about how society works. What are the social structures? What are the power structures? You know, what you can do and you cannot do. You learn it from like being given voice or not, for example. Yes. So there are many different ways how education happens. But I want to suggest that if we are after the noospheric frame of mind, it might be useful to start thinking about the noosphere in this kind of stakeholder, you know, manner. Yes, that what does the noosphere need from as a social system, from individuals, to have them, you know, like prepared for the participation and involvement in this process. So I said it's kind of cynical because like the systemic approaches to education is like, it's like, you know, the individual disappears. Yes, you are just being processed and formed according to like what the system needs you to be. But there is like humanistic, you know, ongoing thread in educational thinking, which we need to tap in like very well. Yes, it's always about the like, you know, like individuality, universality of humanity, which I think this, you know, like noospheric thinking about education needs to be like appealing to. Yeah. So it's like, we are speaking about humanity. We are speaking about humans prior to any social like identifications and groupings. And I believe this is important also to be aware of as kind of like a trap that we might want to avoid, not to strongly describe a social system of what the, you know, like being a noospherian means, because if you are like, if it becomes like a kind of membership club, just by like forming a membership club, you form an option of like non-membership. Just by that, you ask a question, are you joining or not? And, animals are not being asked, do they join the biosphere or not? Yes. By our theoretical concept of the biosphere. And I think we need to be thinking about the noosphere as just, naturally human domain without creating too much of like a gate, in like kind of social symbolic, realm. But still, of course, like thinking, what would this humanness be in the concept of, in the context of how we understand the noosphere needs to be operationalized in kind of like this, education managerial way. Yes, like how do we achieve systematically what we want to achieve? So in terms of what's needed, and please take it as an opener for discussion. It's not that that I will now tell you what's needed from a noospheric frame of mind. It's coming from what I've been working on, and also like a lot from discussions we had. But it was like just a few months, So it's not a long term conversation with Ben, with Sheila, with Paul, with Ellen. We've been like brainstorming in a few conversations about those ideas. So my kind of visual interpretation of bridging the chasm on the level of an individual. Yes, how do you take a non-early adopter and make this person kind of absorb the noosphere. And naturally to me, it felt that it's kind of like going down before going up. And then I first drew it spontaneously. And then I started to wonder, how am I going to explain to you, why does it go down? And I don't know, I can produce something, but then yesterday I was listening to Terry's talk, and he was one of the upcoming books he was showing is calling Falling Up. And I thought, okay, he will know why it's going like that, And he said, yes, it is going like that. So ask him if you don't believe. But to me, it feels like that. You have to it's kind of like a crumbling of identity process. Yes, that you're kind of going deeper into humanity and kind of closer to basic. What are we doing on this planet? Yes, let's forget all those stories that are kind of are carrying us on the surface and kind of in a superficial way on the way of being human. And we're standing here on this planet for some few decades, and So it can be distressing. It's often asked in moments of crisis or in moments of kind of disintegration of identity. And then, you are reintegrating on the other side, hopefully, with being a part of a larger whole. And take it as kind of, sketch for what might be this learning outcome of the whole educational process, if the educational process was built natively for the noosphere. Yes, it's not a state education or religious education or craft education with a component about the noosphere, which recontextualizes what we are doing into that, but more, we are educating as humans, and this is where the spaceship Earth, metaphor, I think, comes very, very nicely. And in my experience, parents, children are responding very well to that. We are all astronauts, on this spaceship, and we are in it together, and we have to coordinate and have ideas where we are going. Yes, together. So, even if you take this more technological view of the noosphere, not as a convergence of consciousness, but just interconnectedness with sharing of information, even with this view, which kind of presents the individual mind more like a black box that more and more cables are connected to that, all the cables from everywhere in the system. Even with this, the question opens up, okay, how on earth are you becoming, like more and more able to be so interconnected without like getting crazy, yes? And like addicted to, like we had it in Gregor's talks yesterday, this addictive loops, this like being taken into like information bubbles that you are not able to get out, yes? So how do you navigate that? How do you like meaningfully, become this element which is interconnected? So the ability to intelligently, yes, in a healthy for yourself way, to be interconnected in this way would be the first kind of like a learning objective. Yes, you need to learn that. But even if we start from that, it obviously opens the next question. If you are becoming interconnected and it's not happening by like some supernatural force, some people are conducting this interconnecting for others and for themselves. So, maybe not everybody, but to me it seems that everybody is in this business of connecting anyhow. Yes, but some people on different levels. So you can be an engineer and be building interfaces. You can be developing technologies, communication technologies, other technologies. Brian was giving the telescope web example yesterday and saying, okay, what does it contain? Yes, it contains the intelligence of those few dozens of engineers, that were producing it. But it also, includes Newtonian physics in it. So this activity of building the connectors. Yes, you can think about this cable, this adapter, which is like a nightmare in traveling always, that don't have the right plugs and so on. And then you go to shops and they don't have it. This is my first day experience here. So so somebody is producing that. Somebody is thinking about it. But it's not only technology, obviously. And for example, Gregory, questions, yes, it's also a technology for interconnecting on the very kind of deep and psychological and meaningful way for people, yes. So you design questions that are the technology for interconnectedness, yes, and so the ability to do that is the next learning objective in my understanding. And again, this produces another question, yes? Because if you are connecting things, you need to, small scale, big scale. I don't mean you become a president of the universe, and need to become that to have the steering capacity in your hands. Because if you are building any moment of connectedness, you are obviously, making choices, yes? Which are how are you going to do? Yes, some things you will want to kind of standardize, which is a great solution. It would be lovely to have just one plug, that works everywhere. Why do we need them? Yes, some other interconnected moments are actually impoverished by attempt to standardize or kind of unify. And this is this, cultural colonization thing, yes, that we will assume will be that it will be better for everybody if we think like this. Yes. So this ability to make choices where, how, what is this process of connectedness, which will be, and here comes a question of values. What do you want? Yes. Do you want to be unified? Do you want to be enriched? Do you want to be more diverse, and so on? And those are questions that the person behind the steering wheel asks themselves, and they need to answer that. Yes, even if it's about the tiny choice they are making for their own life. And then when you are facing those questions, yes, what do you where do you go? Yeah, so. Ideally, in terms of the learning outcomes for the Noosphere, we want people to know they are going there, yes, into this convergence. And I've put here this. It's kind of I have a problem with this. What I've put there, yes, because when you, it's something that. that hopefully everyone has experienced and will experience in their lives at least a few times. This transcendental state of like unity with everything. Yes. And for some people it's like almost like a natural state of being. Some people have just, had this rapture, once in their lifetimes, and so on. But this like makes a bookmark in their mind. This is what we are. Yes. And this is like an extremely, extremely strong and valuable experience. But, most of the time, for most of the people, you don't have that. And then it becomes a platitude. Like, what do you need? What do you mean? What do you mean? And then you are like, you get a ticket for parking. You get fired from your job. You get hungry. And then when somebody is speaking about this interconnectedness and the fusion, I just go away. So, also there is a trap in this kind of like talk to become like a very, very like strange projection of one's mind. Yes, I'm not getting along with people that well, I don't get them. They are like crazy, stupid, like they don't understand me. But I will be speaking about my universal like, kind of consciousness and like being like a part of all and everything. Yes. And then this universal consciousness and being a part of all and everything is just an image in my mind. Yes. I haven't gone out of my mind to produce this image, and it creates a very nice loop. And, I feel very good about myself, like speaking like that. So in terms of the learning objectives that I'm kind of working with, for example, with the programs I've been working for, mostly the school of thinking that was mentioned yesterday, by Francis, is like the proof is in this, like what are you doing when you meet an unknown, unfamiliar, alien, like element? And I think like the labor of everybody's life is actually like try to deal with that, and try to like kind of like, like make it a part of your mind. Yes. And because only then you can like transform it into something maybe more beautiful, more creative, like more like the next thing that can come. So this is basically like a story of everybody's life. Like if you say this in this terms of like, oh, that's the story of my life, there's like a pattern that repeats itself and it's like so annoying, So this is this externality you don't want to have. Yes. And are you willing to like see that it's also a part of the noosphere to which you belong? Yes. Those other people, those crazy ideas. Yes. Those misunderstandings. Yes? And how are we able to make it a part? How are we, like, like if we are serious about the noosphere being a convergence of consciousness, do you want just annihilate those ideas, or kind of like, can you like take them in? Yeah. So that's this is what I understand as a like this fusion on daily basis, challenge, which is like frustrating, laborious, and often failing. Yeah. So now about the educational process, and here I just want to give you a few examples coming from the two educational projects that I'm involved in, with some kind of like general description. So one is the School of Thinking, which is a postgraduate at the VUB in Belgium. It's for adults. Those adults, funnily, it's usually like around 50 years old people that come. So the youngest one actually we had was 28, I think, because like the way it's formulated, it's about like asking a question, what the hell it is, this life, yes? So like somehow the question didn't appeal that much to younger people, and we had quite a few, always participants that are already retired and they are like seriously like questioning their life and so on. So and it's a year-long program. Actually, when I reread Taylor and saying about the circumflexion and reflective coiling, this is like one, paragraph that describes my ambitions for this program. Yes, so it's like very like tuned into this noospheric way of thinking. I'm mindful of time. Okay, I'm speaking too much. So, and another one is something that I'm working on. So it's a program aimed at teenagers from 12 or actually 10, because they are like some of them are just ready to go faster, till 11-year-old. And you see, like, both groups are actually in like this is kind of biological moment of biopsychological moment of experiential existential crisis a bit, because adolescence is the first strong moment where you need a bigger frame. Yes, and you are kind of rebellious, and you reject what you've been socialized into. So this project, which eventually will become a school, a 6-year-long school trajectory curriculum within the International Baccalaureate framework. And this is what this team, basically mostly recruited from the School of Thinking, is busy with developing this curriculum. For now, we are organizing like 1.5 year trajectory, which is an enrichment program for children. So they are coming, for like, it's a stable group meeting every week and then coming for vacations together. And it's 18 children, aged between 11 and 16. So this is where the examples come from. And, One general remark, like my understanding of what's working in education, is something also Paul was already mentioning. So like let me kind of like try to reframe. The approach is called experiential learning, and experiential learning is something very similar to how we learn when we are, like how humans learn basically. So when you have a toddler at home, you don't like produce an image of a chair and like a diagram. Oh, you bump into chair, like, ouch. Yes. And then you kind of like rehearse. Yes. You don't do that. Yeah. You have a toddler walking around, like bumping onto the chair. And then you just simply say what happened. Yes. So like where words come is after you have experienced something, and those words become meaningful in the context of your experience. They are memorized, like the memory is rich. It's like you cannot ever represent the richness of experience in kind of, like semantic network way. You have to experience something, then you start speaking about it. You start kind of like either you point to a chair or you point to experience in speaking about it, and then that your instructor is giving you a handy word for what you are describing. Yeah. And this is how natural, like how it comes. Yes. Aha. Okay. This is the term. Yes. So the entire, like paradigm of education that is very close to me and makes sense to me is this experiential learning paradigm. So I have now switched the order. So, like for becoming, increasingly, interconnected. What you need to learn first, really, like first, is like self-regulation and taking care of yourself in this like sea of information and different inputs and so on. Yes. So like you cannot be shielded by an organized institution to kind of carry you. And when it releases you get lost. So we had it in the COVID period very clear that people are completely lost when they are not being organized in an institutional way. That kind of like, how do they take care of themselves, at home, like, all sorts of psychological problems. Yes. So how do you, and it's kind of like linking to, like almost like a Buddhism education. Like, can you make a, breakfast for yourself? Yes. Do you know how to go about your daily routines? And I think like education needs to start from that. Yes. Because then you are not shielded by any institution. You are like exposed to the whole world, and you need to like have your boundaries nicely, like coherent in a healthy way. And then, like a lot of, so I'm sorry, I will not finish in the time, but like in terms of like connecting to the world, we are not only passive recipients of like all the inputs that we are receiving. Yes. So education needs to like give you the experience. I'm speaking about the experience of actually reaching out and getting connected. And for me, like it was almost life-changing, like realization that in reading a book, I can check if this person is like still around, and I can write an email to them and get a response. So this kind of like the world that's in a, like you can like reach out to places in the world. Rather than just, like being kind of represented within the classroom, that you are in. And, one of my colleagues at the School of Thinking has been running, kind of like a challenge program for a school, and children were coming for like a challenge day, and they would get a challenge of like achieving something out there, like by reaching out and, like in a very short period. So one of the examples she was giving that, one of the things on the menu they could choose was, okay, do whatever it takes, but you are to be in the news, on TV in the evening as a group. And some children signed up for this challenge, and they did, and they did like, I don't know how they did it, but there was a coverage about their challenge in the news. So like when you have this experience, yes, this is the moment where this theoretical is like not the right word here, but kind of like concept, to name what you have just experienced comes in naturally. And then and this is where I have always on the bottom this, like where I would actually put videos that make sense of the experience that have been in class. So for the ability to advance this convergence, it starts with thinking, it starts with how, we have at the School of Thinking, we have a class called Divergent Thinking, which is like a collection of creative thinking techniques. Can you take like whatever, like randomly 3 selected words, and can you make them into a meaningful concept? If you like, our educational paradigms are biased towards separation. The first thing you ask when you hear a word is, how is it different? Yes. And this bias is very systematic. So we are like, usually when we hear something, like different, we say like, we don't know how it connects. So like a lot of training, cognitive training in education needs to be like putting things together. Yes. Like, and this is a noospheric training. Yes. Because we are speaking about the interconnectedness. If you and in this, Buckminster curriculum design, how we are going about it is that there would be every day an hour in the middle of the day where all classes come together. And there is a question, there is a challenge that puts all their learning together. Yeah. And this is where I want the videos to be, which kind of like wrap up it, like what they've done into a meaningful experience. And, for that, I believe that the third story, equally with connecting, needs to emphasize the value of difference, because otherwise very soon the connectedness becomes kind of like a colonizing type of collective. Like just take ours. Yes, just this annihilation of difference. So the connection makes sense only when when there is a difference, and this difference, is respected. So for the ability to steer the course, you need to have an experience of having an autonomy before you understand that you are a choice maker. And this is something that not so many educational institutions actually give you when you are a child. Yes, it's like you are being carried around. Yes, you are being, decisions are made for you, and then you can be like taught that your choices matter. But let them experience that, the influence of their choices onto like the real here and now situation. So, for example, choosing the classes, they will follow, the order of classes they will follow. This is something like here and now in the real life, yes. And then we can be like, when they are faced with a choice, when they are like made to think, okay, what will you choose? Then they become interested. Okay, so what are the options? What are the consequences? Yes, because you kind of awaken this like the person behind the steering wheel. So at the School of Thinking, we have a class which is called the Beautiful Minds. And each student is asked to to choose a person they want to kind of interiorize into their thinking, and do so in the context of this cultural evolution framing. Like it's like really, like what you kind of adopt into your way of thinking is an act in the like large scale cultural evolution. This is your vote, yes. So this is what we do. And then for choice making, like having big picture perspective. Like what do we want is important. And just for like to wrap it up for this. Like interiorization of the alien, of the like unknown, unfamiliar, dealing with the bias against the unknown. Because if you understand the fusion, not as this kind of image in my mind, but the actual engagement with the world, most of the world is unknown. Yeah? So like you have to like, smile to it and befriend it and be okay with that to actually be like connecting to the world in this way, yes. So and then like from this third story, it would be wonderful to have like real life people, examples of how they are like doing that in their lives, yeah. So like this person, like from and beautiful place where this like ongoing interiorization is happening is friendship, and to learn the skills for friendship, to understand it as this, like we are so attracted to some people because they are in a way we want to be, yes, and we kind of like this mutual learning. So just to finish, like I think that like in constructing educational paradigms, it often feels that we are like pulling ideas from all sorts of boxes, and like we don't really know how they fit, and it's kind of like this engineering process of putting things together. But when this paradigm is then like kind of this connection of ideas is then being offered to young people, for them it becomes their native, very organic worldview, which doesn't feel like so like interdisciplinary anymore. Yes, it's just the way it is. So I think it's very worthwhile to bring those ideas to young mind before they are socialized to those disconnected notions that we are then bridging with different theories and so on. So yeah, thank you.